All right, everybody. CryptoVin here, CryptoVin YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Much appreciated. Going to be doing another video today. This one is on another horrible call by Gareth Soloway in regards to Bitcoin price. So I pulled up this video here. It's recorded June 20th, 2022. As you may or may not know, Gareth Soloway, for the past at least 2 years, if not longer, has been saying Bitcoin is going to be going down to 10,000, and I've heard him even say 9 or 8,000. So the 10,000 range, we'll call it. So let's begin by playing this video to start off.
Gareth is somewhat of an internet celebrity now after calling for Bitcoin to reach $20,000 while it was still at $60,000 and beyond.
You guys know my longer term projections. Even though you're going to see lots of bounces and it could be 3, 6, maybe even 9 months, eventually you're going to get to the 18 to 20.
Okay, so just to reiterate, it's been about a year and a half since this video. And so it's well over his 9 months that he just talked about here.
20,000 marker on Bitcoin.
Absolutely. So amazing, right? I mean, we've seen such a collapse from the 65-ish thousand. And the key here is to understand why it broke 20,000. We're going to turn over to the charts here. If we take a look, we know that the January or the December 2017 high, that was a major level. We have now recaptured it after just piercing it briefly. So we know that's support. And then even one more little tidbit of great technical analysis is that if you take the low from March of 2020, which is the low from COVID, which was the lowest point going back to quite a while on Bitcoin, it was around $4,000. And if you connect it to this recent low and you drag a parallel line up, you get the two highs from last April as well as November. So there's a confluence of technical supports right here that signal to me at least we have a bounce here, probably to 25 to 30,000 in the cards. Now, once we get there, unfortunately, I still see more downside. I still think that we will likely head down to probably about 12,000, which is my second price target on the downside.
Okay, so which has not happened. Let us go to another interview with David Lynn from Kitco. And this was back in April 11th, 2022. And it's 27 minutes long, so I'm not going to show the whole thing. But I do want to start off here where they start talking about Bitcoin price. And you can find this video online. It's pretty easy to find. Just Google it.
Bounces.
Medium term then.
Medium term is 20 or sub 20,000 still.
Okay, you're still
and I've been
holding
consistent. I think in Dubai is when I first unveiled that price target to you. And I stick with it because the charts haven't changed. Now, I do want to be clear, the charts can change, right? I have to be someone who can admit when.
So this was 19 months ago. And Bitcoin currently is at 37,583 as we speak. Medium term has not happened.
And things change. So far they haven't, but I will absolutely come back on with you and be like, all right, they've changed.
I think it's probably about time he comes back on and admits he was wrong and that things have changed. And I'll show you a chart of Bitcoin and let you know what I'm talking about. I'm not a technical analyst expert, but I think what I'm going to show you makes sense. And hey guys, just off subject, if you could like, subscribe, share the video, hit that thumbs up, that like button, smash it, appreciate it. It'll tell the algorithm that you like my video, like this information. If you like crypto tutorials, crypto reviews, crypto news, please subscribe, appreciate it. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers and get monetized hopefully shortly after, and I can contribute to more time and effort and put some more videos out there for you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
How would they have changed? What would you look at that would tell you that they've changed?
So we basically, from the November high, you have this vertical kind of drop all the way down. And then since I think it's been the last 2 to 3 months, since January, we've been chopping sideways to slightly up. And if you connect the highs and the lows, they form this perfectly parallel kind of channel. As long as price is inside of that, it's classified as a bear flag, and the expectation is that it would break lower. All right, so now if we get above that channel and establish ourselves above that channel, that would be where I would start to say, okay, are things changing here? Now, maybe they don't, but I have to at least ask myself that question.
Okay, Gareth, so you're walking around the Bitcoin Miami conference.
All right, that's going to be all the relevant information that I want to show you in that video. Let's go to his own video. And this was a year ago, and he's still talking about his price prediction for Bitcoin.
Folks, welcome to Verified Investing. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here at verifiedinvestingcrypto.com, as well as verifiedinvestingeducation.com. So in today's video, we're going to discuss how to find out when Bitcoin will finally bottom. In addition, we're going to look at the price point. So these are predictions that I am making based on technical factors, looking at history, understanding human psychology. All of these things help us arrive at the most likely, the highest probability end date for the bear market, or at least the pivot low, as well as the potential price point where Bitcoin will bottom. So what we're going to do right now is jump right into the charts, folks. And to do that, we're going to bring up the chart right here and take a look. So what we can see is this is the current chart of Bitcoin. What we're seeing here is a sideways consolidation move where we actually broke down. All right, so we've now broken down, which likely signals, as I've talked about previously, a target of 12 to 13,000. But believe it or not, that's just a stopping point. The ultimate low, we're going to look over and see how to arrive at that level. Now, to understand the methodology behind this prediction, we have to look at FTX's collapse and the similarities to Lehman Brothers. Okay, so Lehman Brothers obviously was a big bank collapse that occurred in 2008. To be precise, it occurred on September 15th, 2008. Now, why this is important, right, is because basically when you're looking at Lehman Brothers, you have to look at them being a major bank during the financial crisis. And here we are with a major exchange, one of the top exchanges going bankrupt as well. So there's this similarity, this thread in bear markets that occurs where these big players go bust that over leverage themselves. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the S&P 500 and look at when Lehman collapsed and how long did it take for the markets to bottom on the S&P 500, and then ultimately how much of a drop from that point did we get. So here we have it on September 15th. So here's September 15th right here. In fact, I will put an arrow right to that point. All right, so this right here is the 15th of September 2008. And again, that was when Lehman Brothers collapsed. Now, what we can clearly see is that this did not mark the bottom in the stock market. It was kind of the beginning of the end. And when I look at FTX's collapse, I look at that as the beginning of the final end push down before Bitcoin finally bottoms, right? It's the starting point of the last flush in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. So what we can clearly see is we were trading right around 1,200 to 1,300 when it was announced. From that point on, we made our low in March of 2009 on the S&P 500 in the 600 range. So right there, if you conclude that the FTX is the Lehman Brothers of 2022, we know that we generally have approximately a 50% decline to go in Bitcoin from the beginning of that move to the downside on the FTX collapse. So that's right around 20,000, which puts us just a little bit below, based on current levels of the breakdown, just below $10,000, right? So maybe around 9,000, give or take just a little bit. All right. In addition, how long did it take for all of the negativity and all the craziness to get out of the market from when Lehman basically went bankrupt? And the answer is you go from September to March. So essentially mid-September, you go to, you have September to October, October, November, November, December, January, February, February to March, March to, and basically that's 6 months, right, to March. So it took about 6 months for the remaining negativity to cycle out of the US stock market until we put in a low pivot. Now, interestingly enough, you could say, okay, well, the Federal Reserve came out with stimulus and we saw obviously this kind of bottoming being put in. And you're like, and a lot of people would rightly say, well, how does that equate to a period where we have inflation and the Fed is very unlikely to come to the rescue in the next 6 months? Number one, I think that within about 6 months, you'll start hearing about an economy that is likely to force the Fed, maybe not in the first half of 2023, but in the second half, you will start to hear about the likelihood they will have to stimulate. Number two.
Okay, just to point out, there is no stimulation going on. Actually, it's the opposite. The Fed's raising rates. There is no QE. They're tightening because of inflation and a heated economy.
I equate the Fed coming to the rescue in 09 and the bottom being put in on the S&P to regulation and transparency measures being put into effect. So essentially what I'm saying to you is that for crypto, they don't necessarily need the Fed to start printing again to get that bottom in place. Instead, what the crypto market is craving is transparency and regulation. Basically, open the books, show everything to the public, and that alone will draw big money in, just like the Fed printing money in 09, that drew big money in at those lows and started to reverse the move up. So now we have a time frame, right? So we look at this and we say, okay, 6 months approximately, and a drop of 50% in Bitcoin now, or in the S&P, which would equate to Bitcoin. Now let's flip over to Bitcoin's chart right here, right? In fact, I'll go to this one. So basically what we're doing here is from the collapse, which was at a price right here, right? So really we want to use this trend line because this was the break point right here. So from this collapse, which was around 18,600, that's approximately 50% drawdown would bring us to around 9,000 and change, right? Right around 9,000, we'll call it. All right, just a little bit below that level, or a little bit above that level. So that's now your bogey target on Bitcoin. Now, in addition, what I think we should look at is we should go back to 2017 and notice that we had the same sort of sideways cycle and then a breakdown. And what's fascinating here is that if you look at this breakdown, so number one, this is freaky, right? So let's go back here. So number one, this low pivot in June to when we broke down was June to November and very sideways dead action. If you go back to 2017 or 2018, if you take this low here, it's almost identical, and it was June, and the breakdown occurred in November. So all of a sudden, we have this scenario where this is replicating, where you have this fall. Now, if you look at this, right, where you have this fall and this bottoming period in crypto markets, in Bitcoin, this was from November, when? To April. Or to March. So November through March. Now think about this, folks. How long is that? All right, November, December, January, February, March. It's basically 5 to 6 months. Same thing as what we saw in the S&P, as well as what we're now expecting. So you see this.
So it's been a year. So since this video, and he's saying 6 months. So he's wrong. And I don't think you can compare FTX's collapse with Lehman Brothers, only because you're dealing with a real estate market collapse in 2008. You're dealing with a horrible economy, collapse of the stock market in 2008. As compared to today, we have inflation, a heated economy, stock market's been up, and his prediction is not correct.
Similarities. This is fascinating price action, in my opinion. All right. So basically now we have the price point, the repetitive nature of Bitcoin. All right. We know what can get Bitcoin out of the doldrums, which will be regulation, which in all fairness with FTX, it's going to push forward on regulation and transparency measures because big money got burned. And let's be honest, if it wasn't big money, I don't know if regulation would be pushed forward as much as I think it will be. But my guess is we have a framework within 3 months, and within 6 months, we do have regulation in this.
It's been a year. It's currently November 2023. There has been no regulation. There has been no transparency as of yet, anyway. But well past Gareth's prediction of 3 months. So that's where we're at with that.
Space, which again should lead to a bottom in Bitcoin. Now let's talk about where we have a confluence of low pivots. So basically, we know that approximately a 50% drawdown from this breakpoint of FTX collapsing gets us to our equivalent of the Lehman Brothers collapse in the stock market. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look for a secondary factor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a trend line going back to the pre-run before 2017, connected through the 2018 lows and the March 2020 COVID collapse. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to take this trend line right here and put it through these lows, right? Low to this low to right here. And then what price point do we get? Right around 9,000 and change. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. So that would draw us Bitcoin. That would draw Bitcoin back to that trend line, right? So again, here's the Bitcoin collapse. And if we zoom back here, and I bring this over so everyone can see, this trend line then brings us right to that target suggested from the S&P and the COVID, and the 2008-2009 financial crisis. The time frame aligns, and now the price point aligns with a major technical trend line. So this is what I look for, folks. I mean, this is everything that I teach in the Winning Trader series, by the way, that you can go to Verified Investing Education. This is all what I showcase there. All right, the Winning Trader series, all of my techniques, my trend line drawing, how to do Fibonacci, all this kind of stuff. And it all comes together. And my point is, I wanted to do this video because I'm always interested in helping people understand how.
If this is what he teaches and what he tells people, then you're not going to be making much money, in my opinion.
The confluence of events kind of coordinate with a major point in time as well as price. Price and time are the two biggest factors in any single market. And also, it's important to recognize how history tends to repeat or at least rhyme. And the idea here is that human nature never changes, right? Greed and fear rule the markets. And so generally, past cycles will repeat over and over again because human nature is what's driving markets, right? Greed and fear. It's the underlying human emotion that's making people buy or sell crypto, buy or sell stocks, buy or sell commodities. And so ultimately, this helps get you into a point where you can say, okay, if this happened in the past and this is the result, it's very likely something very similar will occur in the future. So
this is true, but you got to be careful, because if you're not picking similarities of what happened in the past to now, then if that's incorrect, then your whole premise is incorrect. It's becoming apparent that the FTX and Lehman Brothers similarity that he's saying isn't really a similarity, and I don't think it is, because you're dealing with two different major differences. Economy, real estate crash, none of that's happened here now. It's just one cryptocurrency exchange collapsed because of fraud, not because of a bad investment or an investment that went bad. In the banking collapse, we don't have any of that. We have some banks that right now have, and I'm not saying that it couldn't happen in the future. I can't predict the future, but as of now, years later, Gareth's predictions aren't turning out the way he's saying it. And one of the reasons could be that because he's improperly picking similarities, and the Lehman and the FTX could be similarities that aren't similarities. It ended up not being similarities. Anyways, I think that's going to be about it for this video, but you get the point. Let me know what you think in the comments section. What do you think about Gareth's predictions? Have you heard of his predictions? What do you think the Bitcoin? How do you think it's doing? Do you think it's going to go to 9,000 or 10,000 like he says still? Let me know in the comments section. All right, last but not least, I want to show you guys recent chart here. So we're at here at 37,401. And what he was talking about is this November high here. But if you connect the highs and the lows, you get this. You can imagine connecting these peaks. You get these in these lows, you get kind of a channel, right? So you can see right now, there's another channel forming. It's an up channel and it's breaking out of this down channel. And if you connect the peaks here, here, and here, you can, in these bottom ones, here, here, and here, these low points, you can see another channel forming. And it's a channel, it's a rising channel. And that's bullish, in my opinion. I'm no technical analyst expert, just kind of using common sense. So if there are any experts out there, let me know what you think. If you're not an expert, let me know what you think too. But are you seeing what I'm seeing? So I don't think we're going to be heading down to 9 or 10,000. I think the low was here, down in 16,000, and I think we're heading back up. To be honest with you, let me know what you think in the comment section. Hey, I appreciate everybody watching. Hit that like button, subscribe if you like this kind of content, crypto news, crypto tutorials, crypto project reviews. Appreciate everybody watching. This is Crypto Vin, and we'll see